And we're back. Well, yeah, if you're seeing this for the first time, this is, the first time. But I did do a test earlier. Shouldn't have any kind of issues. Still, I want to check just to make sure. So I'll give that a couple minutes. Aha, okay. And we're there on Facebook. And I think I'm just going to take it on faith that all the other ones are working. And I see comments now. I got that all wrapped up. So, okay. Good. Yep, that's good. Okay. Well, hello everyone. Welcome back. Last time on paper wrangling, I folded a bunch of corrugations in different patterns. Kind of zigzaggy things. Some of them were, all parallel and mostly evenly spaced, or a couple different margins of spacing. Some, diverged from its origin, or kind of was spiky and then kind of evened out. I had some that sort of rotated around, and then actually this one, I think this was a different one. Anyway, I want to do more of that sort of thing, but go a little deeper into analysis of what exactly is happening here, because I've been thinking about this the past week or so. Just to recap, if you haven't seen the last video, the idea behind this is that you set up, and actually I'm going to try this out. Just you guys are my guinea pigs here. So we're going to define a workable region, for lack of a better term. Maybe I'll hone in on something a little better. A workable region is something where, get a straight edge here, you have creases that are just sort of randomly placed, and each of these creases go off to infinity. I'll do something like that. Randomly placed, just all over the paper. And what you do is find a region within this infinite universe where none of the creases intersect. So, for example, a valid region that would satisfy that would be something like this area. Right, so that little strip there. And so what you do is you try to find something where that's the case. Let's do this as our region. It could be a rectangle. It doesn't have to be. Here we go. I think we can all agree that the creases don't intersect within this region. And so what you do from there is you identify all the creases. You start with an origin crease, and that's going to be this one. We'll call it crease A, B, C, and D. Okay, and crease A, and I'm trying to remember the notation. Actually, I want to get this right. I want to get this right. I'm gonna So I'm going back to conversations I've had with my co-writer of the next book. His name's Matt Benet, and we've sort of gone back and forth on where is that file. We've sort of gone back and forth on how the notation would be set up and how we want to actually approach this. Give me a hot second here, guys, just to get this thing up. I should be able to find this a lot quicker. Writing files. Aha! There it is. Cool. All right, so I'll share this with you guys. Cool. Here we go. So every crease on this region, let me move that around a little. There we go. So, hi. Okay, so every crease in this region, we need to be able to, for the notation system, we need to be able to define every crease as a primary crease, a secondary crease, or a tertiary crease, etc. So there needs to be an axis of kind of detail level. We have to. Right, we were calling these a family of creases. So these primary creases is that one, that one, that one, and that one would be a family of creases. Sometimes that family of primary creases follows a particular pattern, and we want to be able to describe what that pattern is. So for example, this family has, you go over a short amount, and then you go over a wide amount, then a short amount, then a wide amount, a short amount, a wide amount. And in each case, it's all parallel to the original one. There's no rotation at all. So we need to be able to describe the angle and distance. Consider if you have a starting crease and you move a duplicate of that crease over a certain amount, and then you rotate a certain amount. And this extends often to infinity in both directions. If I were to move it a little further, I'd end up with a lower intersection on the original crease. So distance this way is pretty much equivalent to the distance this way for infinite lines, or rays, I suppose in this case. It's not really rays because it's connecting. Anyway, so family A, right? Okay, so I should keep this. I should keep the notation. And this is me starting to kind of remember what we talked about and kind of incorporate it in my mind. So we've got A0 for the origin crease, the origin primary crease. We've got A1, A2, A3. Excellent. We need to be able to keep track of right. Okay, so I think this is good for now. We've got a setup for all the primary creases, and then the secondary creases. Basically, what happens is A1 and A2 create a new subregion, and that new subregion, we'll say it's this, creates a new region here, which kind of looks like that. That's your, I don't know, A0 region. There's probably better notation for that. But then on top of that region, you set up more creases inside of that to be a new set of primary creases. But because it's a layer down, we call those B0, B1, B2, etc. And then you take this and plop it back into the original and then reflect and proliferate those throughout the entire main region. Now, you can't go out to the infinity, the infinite region out there, because then it's just going to bounce around. It's going to be ridiculous. But let's try to take this, and we've got basically this. We've got this-ish, and we've got this. And I didn't really think when I was putting those down. There's my rough transcription there. Close that, and we're back to this. These reflect anytime it hits, so this, we'll call this B0, B1, B2. Anytime B0 hits one of these creases in either direction, it reflects. So we're just gonna eyeball that. And in reality, it would probably, so here's the issue. I'm gonna keep that there. I'm not really concerned with what happens out here just yet. We'll attend to that in a minute. I am concerned with how it. I need to give some names to these other creases, at least for the sake of this argument. I'm going to call these Omega. Is that right? I mean, is Omega's the infinite? I don't know. Well, for now, I'll call it Omega. That might not be the best name for it. This is A0, so that already has a name. This is A1, already has a name. A2 already has a name. A3 already has a name. This crease, however, which I'm going to highlight, actually I'm going to highlight this in green, never crosses the region in question. So that's going to be given a special name. That's going to be an Omega 0. So there's that one. This one never crosses the region in question. That's going to be Omega 1. I'm not doing this systematically. I'm just randomly naming these different things. This one doesn't cross the region, so that's going to be Omega 2, and then this one doesn't cross the region. That's going to be Omega 3. Cool. So the Omegas are never going to cross this region. Okay, so now I can talk about how B0 reflects, and then eventually crosses A2 just off the page, something like that. And then it has to cross over A3 here, also off the page. And so I think part of the rule is that it still reflects over all the A's, basically all the blue creases, the ones that actually intersect this region, whereas maybe it doesn't intersect we just run it right through the Omegas. Let's see what happens if we run B through some of the Omegas. Just see. And again, I'm eyeballing this. I'm not really calculating this out. This is pretty close to 90 degrees. It's something like that. Okay, this is gonna come back and hit the region, assuming I drew everything correctly. I'm gonna stop it right there because things are gonna get weird. So in this case, I'm not going to concern myself with the greater region of space. I'm just going to concern myself with the base region here. Okay, so B1 reflects something like this. And B1 eventually intersects one of the reflection lines of B0 and then goes off, but that's okay. B2, yeah, because it intersects outside of the region. We're going to say that's allowed. B2 reflects like this. It's inside of a zone of transition between A0 and A1, so it's kind of curls like this. This is not going to be a foldable surface by any means, flat foldable or otherwise, because you're going to have, let's say this is mountain, that's going to be mountain, that's going to be mountain, that's going to be mountain, this has to be mountain, this has to be mountain, and then you have valley here, which it just doesn't work. You need basically the mountain and the valleys need to be switched. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. So I like this model. I like this idea of explaining what's going on. We have the greater universe of creases. We have a defined region inside of those that follows a specific set of rules. And then Matt and I have to figure out how the reflection lines within that region, what kind of rules do we want to set up with the reflection over other creases, either in the region or outside. And then we got to give some terms. So do we call, this is B0, do we call this B0, I don't know, 1, or B0, 2, B0, -1. I don't know. And we're still figuring out the best way to approach this. So yeah, that's what we're working on. In other news, I think Matt and I are I'm going to have him join a live stream in a couple weeks here. Mostly because I like to overcomplicate things. I like to advance towards sophistication is the probably a more diplomatic way of saying it. I don't know if it's gonna work, but then again, I haven't really known if these live streams were gonna work in the first place. So we'll do a test over the next couple weeks here. I think should be quite interesting. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. All right, enough theory, and let's get to the guts of it. So this is if you have a predefined infinite region of creases, and then you work on the inside. There's the other way to think about it is if I want to set up a specific pattern, how would I use a notation system to do that? So that would be like this. You have a predefined region. We're going to say that that's the sheet of paper, and you create creases on this region such that they don't intersect on the paper or in that region. So they can intersect on the edge, but they can't intersect on the interior of the paper. So do that. I'll do that. I'll do that. I'll do another one that's kind of like that. Maybe something like that, and then And so these are primary collapse creases. In reality, if you're folding these will oscillate between mountain, valley, mountain, valley, mountain, valley. But for the sake of drawing them out, all the primary collapse creases are going to be in green, and then the reflection lines are all going to be in purple. And the reflection lines are all going to be mountain or all going to be valley. So if they're all part of a single secondary collapse family, crease family, then they'll follow a similar parity. They'll all be mountain or all be valley. So for example, if I have this as my first secondary collapse crease and the origin of that family, then it'll be something like that, 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 and that, and it never intersects these two down here. That would all be a mountain fold, and that determines whether this segment is mountain or valley, and determines whether this segment is mountain or valley. Basically, if this is all mountain, then this would be mountain, this would be mountain, this would be mountain, this would be mountain, and then the acute sides would be valley. It's always the opposite of the reflection line parity. So yeah, sorry, just threw a lot at you guys, but I'm trying to suss it out in my mind as well. So okay, let's do one where I intentionally have it intersect these two suckers. Nope, that's gonna be a little more than I bargained for. I want this instead. So ignore that line. That's it's going to be something like, yeah, something like that. That's going to go up like that and bump up, and something like that, and something like that, and something like that. Okay, I think that angle's a little wide, but that's fine. So now I can define. So I can give some names to these. I don't know if I can erase this. Okay, so this crease ignore, that line ignore. We have A0, A1, A2, A3, A4, A5. Nothing intersects A5, at least not in the defined region. This would intersect way down here, but we're not gonna talk about that. We have B1, B2. We're not sold on the notation, like I said. For now, I'm gonna do B1-1. And this would technically be B1-0. This will be B1-2, B1-3, B1-4. This will be B2-1, B2-2, B2-3, B2-4, and B2-5. Okay. So, the thing about this is you have B1 is B1-0 is rising, and then it's falling, and then it's rising, and then it's falling, and it's rising. And it's allowed to do this by grace of not entering the zone of transition. Again, just to recap, zone of transition happens when you have a region surrounded by creases, and normally if you have something that comes at a sharp angle like this, it'll go off to infinity that way. If it comes down the other direction, it'll go off to infinity the other direction, something like that. However, if it's in a middle ground, somewhere like here, it doesn't oscillate, it just sort of wraps around. And what this leads to is a mountain fold here, valley fold, mountain, mountain, which makes it quite difficult to fold. You have this whole point kind of going downward. It kind of curls, and then eventually it clashes with other parts of the paper. We don't have any of that on this, so that's fortunate. Didn't plan for it that way. It just happened that nothing went badly here. So in all cases, B1 and B2 are rising, and then B11 and B21 are falling. B12 and B22 are rising, and then falling, and then rising. And then this one's falling down here. This one would fall, off the page eventually. So everything's kind of normal. These reflection lines don't intersect each other. They're playing nice with each other, so that's good. Which means we can actually give some kind of parameters for the regions themselves. We can call a region, a rising one, a falling one, a rising one, a falling one, something like that. Let's do. Running out of colors here. That's fine. You know what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a regular pencil, color in all the risings. And there we go. So the shaded in regions are the risings. It's all the ones where the B's are kind of going upward, for whatever that means. And then the ones that aren't colored in, this little sliver here, this region here, those are the ones where it's going downward. Now, in this case, the regions, for lack of something better, we'll call that region capital A, 0. Actually, I'm going to define it off of 0 and 1. So this one's going to be capital A, 0. This one's going to be capital A, -1. Because this also goes off infinitely in the other direction. And so you have an A -1, A -2, A -3. This one's going to be A1, A2, A3, A4, A5. Okay, so these are the regions we're working with. And in this case, all of the odd ones, so -1, 1, 3, and 5, are rising. All of the even ones are falling, but that's not always the case. If you do have a zone of transition, then after that transitional zone, it flips. And all the odd ones, what once was rising is now falling, and what once was falling is now rising. And so that's something I'm going to have to figure out. Okay. So, okay. It looks like all of the B1 lines, this is B1, this is 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, looks like all of those are separate lines. Now they're determined by the angle here. So it's a reflection about one of the A's. However, in the folded state, and this is the whole point of the corrugations, is that in the folded state, these actually should line up. Now, I eyeballed the drawing, so they're not going to be perfect. Okay, it looks like I got these ones not too bad. I'm gonna bend this a wee bit. Yeah. And then something like that. Okay, so they should all line up like that in a straight line. Now this, what's going on here? That I think that was just poorly drawn. B2-5 should actually be coming down like that, and then we get B2-6. Okay, so that's really what's going on there. That should intersect A5 at some point. But you can see all of the B1s are really one line, one vector, and it's permeating through this particular form of space. That's kind of interesting. Okay. So where am I going with this? Like, what's the point of doing this? Well, for right now, for the sake of paper wrangling, this is so that I can get my thoughts kind of out there. In, I think, a low-risk environment. I don't think too many of you are going to throw rotten fruit at me for saying the wrong thing. Maybe you will. It's fine. You're somewhere else. Yeah, I think I'm safe here. But why do this in the first place? Well, it kind of, it helps to be able to, for me, to be able to talk about these particular things. Here I had what I think was a pretty good description of the thing. And did I delete this? I hope I didn't delete this. Window capture. Here we go. This was a paper I wrote for 7 OSME way back when, and I'm thinking that when 8 OSME comes, I'll have a better. There we go. The reflection approach to corrugation design. This might go into a little better idea. You have these primary creases. You have the reflection lines. Even kept with the same color coordination that I had there, and then as you proliferate that throughout, it goes until it goes off the paper. You can do multiple secondary collapse creases. I called them different things back then. Matt and I have been kind of tweaking the language. You have an oscillation between the acute angles going down, acute angles going up, acute angles going down, acute angles going up. You can see the numbers, the variables are slightly different. I had to come up with a symbol for acuteness. So the filled in angle here means less than 90 degrees, and the open angle up at the top here is greater than 90 degrees. Because I haven't seen that before. I haven't seen something that needed to denote acute versus obtuse. Talk about the zone of transition a little bit. This little bow tie thing there. And then a few patterns down the way that okay. Let me close this off. Yeah, if anyone would be interested in reading that, I'm happy to send it to you. It's a little out of date these days, so the next book is going to be kind of fleshing out that system, and that's what I'm doing with Matt right now. Okay, so how do we describe where these creases are in the region? And so Matt and I have been discussing having an origin crease of some kind. I'll use black for this. So, origin crease. In our case, let's just make A0 itself the same as the origin crease. So this is our origin, and we have a crease, a construction line. It's not an actual crease. It's a axis almost that goes out at 90 degrees. So this line right here is our kind of the most important line for the sake of notation. And that goes off in both directions. So to define the relationship between A0 and A1, it matters to. It's important to have this construction line. So what happens? We move A1 parallel a certain distance, so out to about here, and then we rotate it about that point a certain amount. In this case, it's clockwise, so it would be a negative rotation. We could potentially do it counterclockwise as well. So that is some angle theta and some distance x. Cool. And so the next thing is, we extend some distance x again, and then some distance theta, or do we have another origin crease that comes off of that? I think cascading and building off of the previous might get too complicated. So this would be, follow the origin crease to here. This would be some distance x2 to hit that line. We have theta 2, and there we go. That's our next line. So that's the relationship between A1 and A2. What that doesn't do, though, is explain the relationship between A1 and A2. Though I suppose that's just the difference of x1 and x2, and maybe the difference of the thetas. Yeah, that shouldn't be too hard to define. Okay. Got a lot of numbers, a lot of variables floating around here. Probably not all of these are going to be necessary. I'm okay casting kind of a wide net and then pulling back. Yeah. So the third one, then again, will be, x3. This is going to get a little hairy because there's so much crap going on here. Now, A4 is going to be weird because this won't actually intersect the origin until it's off the page, but it still exists. It still has to have some relationship. So this is going to be some distance x4, and then some new theta over there. And then the same thing with A5. Actually, here's the weird thing. It looks like A5 is actually going to intersect the origin crease before A4. So maybe it makes more sense to swap these two. And so that's an interesting dynamic. I hadn't considered that. So there's a particular positioning, A0, A1, A2, A3, A4, A5. But A5 actually, that's a weird case. But I don't think that's going to be too uncommon. I think things like that are going to happen all the time. So the oddity cases are, what are the oddity cases? There, let me grab some paper. The oddity cases are ones where primary collapse creases, just for right now, I'm just using PCC. So primary collapse creases proliferate through boundary region. So the boundary region in this case is the exterior of the paper. So primary collapse creases proliferate through the boundary region in one order, but intersect origin in different order. Okay, so that's one. That's one oddity case. We have an oddity case where secondary collapse creases intersect primary collapse creases at an angle within the zone of transition, ZOT. Okay. What else do we have? And we have the condition where secondary collapse creases or tertiary collapse creases or quaternary or whatever reflect around and either self-intersect or intersect other secondary collapse creases or tertiary collapse creases or quaternary. So these are the special cases, and I don't think I say special cases. I think this will happen the majority of the time. At least one of these weird things is going to happen most of the time. But in those special setups where none of these happen, then we could have a special name for that region. And I think having that would be important, because I think being able to, most corrugations you see on the Oregon the Corrugation Facebook page or Flickr, or the pretty ones, don't have these things. They're more easily defined. I suppose we'd call them well-defined regions. We'd call them normal regions, pretty regions. I don't know. I think I like pretty regions. Nope. That's here. Just do that. So a pretty region is one that doesn't have one of these oddities, and there's probably other oddities that I haven't taken into account. So don't take these as rote definitions at this point. Here's an example of something I have in mind for that. So this was something I folded at a bar last night. We have, within this region, within this this rectangular sheet of paper, none of the secondary collapse creases intersect other secondary collapse creases. If this pattern were to continue, this would eventually rotate around and become a star, and then it would come back and, in reality, self-intersect, and that's not allowed. Depending on where we put our origin crease, there might be a swap of naming, in the order. Maybe. I'm not sure. Yeah, actually, that first point where primary collapse creases proliferate through the boundary region in one order but intersect the origin in a different order might depend on where the origin is actually drawn, that construction line. I don't know. Whew. I didn't actually do any folding during this. We're coming up, it's been about 45 minutes. I don't know, maybe you found it interesting, maybe it was just pointless rambling, but I had to get my thoughts out there. I think I'm going to keep working on this. Matt and I will have a couple meetings. We can kind of hone in on how we want to talk about this stuff. But yeah, I think I'm going to call it here. And oh no, I did do a little bit of folding. So okay, good. Paper wrangling. Hell yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for joining. I hope you enjoyed these, insane ramblings, and I'll see you next week, and maybe I'll get some more folding. Do kind of a back to basics sort of thing next time. So, have a good week. See ya.